We're getting fired up here, playing a session that is on PokerStars, Pennsylvania, and it is actually a session I played earlier. I'm doing a replay of a session. Going to kind of talk through, and I think this is going to be a good format that works for me. This is kind of the first time I'm doing that, and I want to talk through a lot of different things, and it's just not really easy for me to both play and explain and get any amount of volume in without really kind of sacrificing my game or playing a very small amount of hands. And so this way, I think I'll have a much better opportunity to talk and play, check on the stream, kind of narrate, move things around, produce. I have other big ideas for the stream that I'm kind of going to want to talk through, explain some other things. But yeah, this is going to be a play and explain. If it's going kind of fast, you're going to, take a little bit of time to get used to my setup. And so we have a couple different hands here. I'm interested, the most exciting one here is table number 4, which we'll go down to in a second, where we do sort of put this raise in. And on a 3 flush, I think that's a really nice freezing kind of raise, and it's going to give us a lot of options. And if he decides to polarize, we're kind of happy about that too. So the best thing, though, is I think applying some pressure. But here is a decision in the hand where we kind of take a free card. This is probably a real blunder in the hand. I wanted to make sure I realized all my equity, though. There is possibilities of a check raise on the turn, which is kind of devastating. I can still call, but, I could be already drawing dead in a sort of circumstance like that. So we played that hand much passively, and when he donks the river there, we don't think about bluff raising. It's hard to represent anything. Even though that river bricks out, I don't think we're going to have a lot of raise, check, raise. So, right, so we're back to this sort of four-handed play here. Now just checking in. Yeah, I don't really expect any sort of activity from streamers, so this is all kind of people who are going to be watching later for the moment. And just to answer some questions about myself, I play on PokerStars Pennsylvania. I play 100 to 500 no limit. I also like to play tournaments, some PLO. I like to play a lot of different games. I've been playing poker for about a year. Well, since poker became legal, right around the fall, towards the end of last year, I went then sort of full-time into it at mid through February. I'd been a pro in the past who had gone through Black Friday. So we got a little bit of value down there with that flush, which was kind of nice. You're going to have to stick with me here as we kind of learn how to narrate around and see what's going on. Table number 1, under the gun, we should only really have a polarizing size here. There's a lot of turns that can freeze our action as well. And so we're just going to bet big here. This is like the top, and we bet big, and we want to get money in. So that's how we're going to play it, which is nice about a bigger flop size, is you can polarize and you can sort of actually slow down to what is most likely the most obvious thing. What I do here, there's definitely some straight draws like 9-10s, Jack 10s, other things like that. And with this kind of poor run out, we find out that he had top pair. We opt to put that there into a bluff catching range instead of a value range. I just am much more comfortable just calling one bet there than potentially have to be bet calling at some frequency. Some people are going to bluff you if you try to block that river. And what's the point then of trying to block and get very, very thin value? It's questionable. So my aspirations are to get up to 2.5 more consistently. I want to do a lot of things with this stream as well. What I'm looking forward to most, though, is actually to find people out there like you who are passionate about poker. And the first person that I'm really interested in finding out is someone who's passionate, is someone who can do some sort of like video editing a bit better than I can. I don't really have the interest or any sort of abilities or time to kind of learn any sort of video editing stuff. And I would really like to get to the point where I can be working through someone with a live stream, talking about things to kind of like clip and cut out to turn into highlight videos and going through sims and talking about strategy. I think that that's pretty important. So if that sounds like someone like you, that's something that we can talk about through coaching, payment, actual cash, all kinds of things like that. And so that's the first person that I'm really, really looking for, someone to jump on board with that and start kind of like wanting to work with me as a director, producer, kind of editor of that caliber, or just general interest. This is something that's growing, So I'm going to move down here now. I'm trying to navigate my restream, and no people, of course. So down here, I think this is a very, very interesting table. We have a mandatory barrel here, raise on the flop, or bet on the flop, right? And we bet large, polarizing, to apply a lot of pressures, because eventually we're going to have to fold some sort of like middle pocket pairs there as part of his range composition. And we bet that turn again. We bet smaller there, because the 7 does kind of freeze us a little bit. If we have hands like ace queen, it's a good block bet. It's a good showdown bet for us. Puts him in a cage a little bit, and then when we get there on the river, we bet big. And he is forced to call us there with top pair, and we get very lucky with that 3, given that he had the blocker to it. And so you can see down here on table 4, we're kind of setting up, that strong second bet where he can sometimes call with worse, facing a 2-barrel. When he does this to us on the river, it kind of unfortunately, freezes us up and makes us unable to continue with the bluff there. So there is some desktop audio. It should have clicked in already. Maybe it's not. I have my audio a little low because I'm also listening to some music, but part of this is for me to get some narration from this video session. You can see on table 1 here, we have a wonderful turn card here. Great card, double barrel. And we choose here, maybe I can pause this video and just talk about this for just a second. We choose to donk here on the flop on table 4. Puts a lot of pressure to his range. We don't really want to give him a free card. That sort of part of the board connects with us a lot better, forces him to kind of make a decision, and any real hand is most likely going to raise there. And so we put a lot of pressure on him to do that. So that's kind of how we choose that. And so let's just continue on here. We could definitely raise that Jack 10 on the flop. We probably should, but it's a little annoying if we get 3-bet at that point though, and it really strengthens our calling range, and then we can just apply pressure here when he defines his range a bit more on the turn with his check. And so, yeah, with that 10-9, we fire just a small bet on the river. That is like a continuation of a bluff. He could have a lot of draws still. And we just fire out another bluff there to try to win that, a triple barrel like we would with all our sort of value bets. Now there should be some narration from me at some point in this hand. So with the king queen, when he checks back on the turn, he's either going to be drawing to this spade a good amount, or he's actually going to be nutted on the turn, and he doesn't want to kind of give away his hand. And so when he also gets here, and it looks like I've kind of given up and I haven't taken a more aggressive line, this is like a very low EV node for me, but it's a good spot for him to bluff. And given these odds, I mean, I don't expect him. It's, air. My top pair should be good. And so you have to call there with some frequency, and you're going to lose, at a lot of frequency too. But he may get there on the river with a low paired spade and not even value bet it because he's worried about it. He's just happy that he can show down now. And I choose not to bluff catch there on the river with that queen on table 1 once it gets there. Alright, and we have 2 hands going on here. Looks, we got 9s and ace queen off, which are both raises on the button. And here on table 1, it's pretty nice. I hope I go, I mean, I could range bet here, but I hope I actually go big. It's kind of weird, like, you know, he has some sort of overpairs that you want to punish here, but... And you also want to keep his range kind of wide, though, and be able to punish him more on the turn and river. But the value, the overpair 9 there is generally, that's a great spot where the board is very clear for you to kind of like bet as an overpair edge there with 9s, and bigger the better. So down here on table 3, we play our standard strategy, which is basically quarter pot on 3 flush. He responds with a call, which gives us a lot of options here. We can polarize, we can go small again. And so we put another one in there, applying pressure to him. And when he does that, he burns us. So we're kind of happy to let that hand go. I mean, we're not sure how good our ace-high showdown was there at that point. I mean, very likely it wasn't. And for that sizing, he could be sort of quite strong. I don't think he's just doing that sizing just to test us out. Pretty much anything is better than ace-high. You know, could be drawing basically dead there. And it's very thin. And with that hand, we can just kind of let that go. And we're not feeling too bad about not realizing some equity and maybe showing down ace-high there. So with 9-10, that's a pretty slick hand there. He open raises, I just check call. I mean, that's good for my range here. And with the queen 6, we have no showdown value. Ace high would probably bet something like that, so we try that again because certainly we have better pairs there. There's a lot of opportunity. Now, moving into table 1, I mean, we have this river decision here, and it's very natural for our range to sort of start being betting out here. So we're going to do that. It's really tough for him to call with anything, given that he has a king, and he probably should have bet the turn with that king. I mean, I certainly would have. So it says make a call with like jacks. He actually has a much better hand there, which is kind of surprising that with that particular hand, he didn't continue and put that into a stronger 2-barrel range. Like by not leading that river with a hand that's strong, you know, and just hoping for some sort of check raise. And the only thing you'd be check raising there against is his most likely thing is, you know, a bluff. He's not going to really even be value betting, calling a check raise. So a lead there is good because you need to get some value. And it's kind of like catastrophic if you miss value with nuts like that. And down here in table 4, I make a fold with 2s and a small blind. The green player is one of the better regs in the game, and even though purple is considered a fish tag, I'm going to let 2s go in the small blind there. I prefer to play more of, you know, 3-better fold there. You know, even though I am incentivized to call to keep the fish in the hand, which I will do more of, my thoughts are that 2s are just a little bit too weak there. Interesting spot here. Okay, so here, all right, I think I have some.
I could go big or small. I think I'm going to go bigger. It's kind of tough, though, because now I narrow his range down, so there's less BS.
Oh, so I do have some narration here. All right, so let's listen to what I'm saying at the time.
I incentivized him here to check raise a little bit. I look a little bit weaker. And I want to continue with my ace-queen, so I'm just trying to find a cheap bet size here. Something that also applies pressure to both these guys. I don't want to continue with it now. Now I feel like, my ace high is certainly not best.
All right, so I kind of agree with that. That Jack 8-5 is so connected that everyone is going to have some sort of like very dangerous turn card against my clearly ace high, so even a queen is potentially counterfeit to like a 10-9.
Very interesting for him to check here. Kind of curious what's going on with that. He is a GTO, and he's like very non-GTO.
So I'm hoping, I guess, my ace high is good there. I think it's an interesting spot. Potentially maybe betting the turn. Deny some equity, build some value. I don't know if you ever get the chop ace to fold at some point then. Pretty looking hand down on table 3. I decide to go with the polarizing size. And he folds. Down here on table 4, I mean, this guy is very confusing to me. I don't know. My thoughts at the time are...
I have better bluff catchers than this ace high right here at this point. I mean, this is multi-way. This guy could just be going for it. What's he really betting at this point? It seems surprising. I'll just call him just to see here. Is it an 8? That's super thin.
That's a pretty good call there. I mean, you're going to find that actually happens a ton in your games. That's a nice exploit. I mean, when it goes around and if anyone has any sort of high bet river frequency in multi-way pots, when everyone seems that disinterested, even if any sort of bet like that is suspicious when it's multi-way and checked around that often. And 4-way, I mean, I'm interested. I don't know if he's doing this more to kind of get me out of the hand. And I go for just some big value here with Jack 6. I mean, why not? I clearly have the nuts. And here's a spot with the 7-6 that is interesting. I'm looking forward to going. I do get to go last to act here, and it does check around to me. And I don't know what the sizing is here. My default play is to play quarter pot. And I'm creating a whole new range here, though. I decided to go pot here. Because any bet is so polarizing, I think, that I have to go basically pot.
I'm conflicted. I don't really know what to say about this spot. There's just so many people that I think I have to bet here to protect. Errant clubs and such. I think that's kind of obvious. But in a spot like this...
Oh, that's good.
I could be betting.
Oh, no, I do go full pot, yeah. So that is a fail, I think, on some level. I mean, even when I'm polarizing on the most polarizing boards, I hardly ever bet pot, but this spot was so unique that I kind of defaulted from my normal 3/4.
Interesting bet size there. I'm not sure how much action I want to encourage. Clubs are going to be live against me. This guy's basically drawing dead now.
So I think this is all pretty standard so far. So at this point, I mean, yeah, if you've actually watched along this far, I hope you're enjoying the content. I kind of forgetting that I'm actually doing my own sort of like review and study here, thinking through it, hands a bit myself. I like to hear basically how I sound now when I play. I think it's actually become very beneficial for my game. I started taking some coaching recently within the last month or so, 2 months or so, and
So
actually
there's
going
some
through those
interesting
coaching
things here
sessions
on this
and
rainbow
hearing
board
myself.
and the snap check behind. I think we have to basically start going after him with the snack. Ooh, and now would he snap check behind? Ace Queen is his best hand.
So
Unfortunately,
do I have
put
someone
King
on Twitch?
Jack
Twitch, if there
here
is
with a
someone
snap
Twitch
check
here,
behind for a
say what's
person like
up.
this. I'm a little worried. I don't want to have to bet fold this. My king may be good. The queen is certainly not great to a hand like ace queen now. The snap is still very confusing to me. I don't know what if he would turn a hand into a bluff here. So we're looking at a lot of ace queen here. Hopefully that's only realistically he's 3-betting me with 2 combos of that. So we'll have to see what happens here. I have to call though with top pair. Unfortunately, I do block some of the things that I would like to stop. Aces, and so he checks back aces. Good check back on the flop.
It's a great check back by him to put such a high EV strong hand into his turn range there, because play is going to get a lot more challenging on the turn. So I think that guy played excellently. I didn't really think he would have the propensity to do that, and congrats to him for playing his aces that way. So yeah, I think I have some people in the stream now. Say hi in the chat. It's kind of crazy. I tried this before and got like bot spam advertisement. Like right away. So there's a little interference here with some notes and everything like that. I'm still trying to figure out if this looks good. Please give me some feedback if you're getting this. I know it goes a little fast. Sometimes if you really want to follow along, you can always pause or go 0.75 speed. My goals through this are, like I was saying, to start spreading and finding out some other people who are like me, who want to work with me. I have some other goals that are like to bring more poker to Pennsylvania, to find more people to work with in person, to beat the game with like a crew, basically. I think that's really important. And, I really want to start finding my people. I'm basically putting myself out there. I have some ideas that I want to work on with people that is poker related and also, talent related too. I'm looking to find people to help me out getting some certain stuff done. I think, you can see that I should be using this poker money for some good. I think that that's really important. I can use my ability to teach. There's a lot of benefits to poker that are both, employing people with actual money, but mental psychology aspects too, of ways to kind of overcome and get better about things. I'm very interested in helping out people out. Anyone, I've been asked a million times in my life, because I've played poker professionally for quite some time, since college basically, other than the span of basically from Black Friday till now, when I took that time off. I never thought I'd come back to poker, so now I am back in poker. As of, like I was saying, March, I kind of switched into it full time, so I'm now trying to grind 1,000,000 hands this year to show sort of my appreciation for love of the game. That plan basically took a standstill when I started getting more into the desire to stream. So I don't know if I'll hit 1,000,000 hands. It's going to be really close.
I think my hand is actually pretty good here with ace 9. I'm confused though if I have a better bluff catcher or a hand to apply pressure with, because the 9 is a bit of an interesting, confusing thing. I reduced some of his bluff combos.
Okay, I remember talking through this hand at the time, and I kind of agree with that with the 9s. Like the 9s, Kind of
Okay.
stinks because it takes a lot of like 9-10s and things like that away, but it also blocks a lot of hands like 8-9s and 7-9s, which are kind of probable too. So the 9's interesting there for the combinations. So this queen's hand is interesting for sure. I think I'm gonna hear my language here. This is gonna be curious.
I do not want to. I do not
Brutal.
believe I have
Right,
the best
okay,
hand
so-
here at all. This may actually be a fold. I may have to call fold this. It's very likely Daniel shoves over the top, and I think Philly will as well. I don't
It's
know if
interesting
this is
hearing
just a
myself
10 BB mistake
talk
here.
about this.
We're gonna see what happens.
I really, at the time,
Hopefully,
am very
Daniel
concerned that
has a great chance of
this
just
purple player
opening
who
it. That's what happened
is
in
first
Patterson.
is very, very tight and would not really even enter this spot without something really strong. And then I think the person next to act after him is even tighter. He has a 1% 3-bet, and you never see him really get out of line. So that's kind of, I think 4-betting maybe there is suicide because it's basically a 4-bet bluff. So we take this flop. And I want to hear how I
And
talk about
have
this.
to admit, I don't know what to do here.
That was true.
I don't know if Philly is the kind of guy to 3-bet jacks. Would he check aces here? I don't know about that. I don't know if I can bear to give a
Kings,
card
nice.
here. I just don't know what to do. I'm going to bet small. I think I have to bet. I think a bet is mandatory.
So yeah, I agree with that. Bet is mandatory. I guess it's a sizing thing. I think it's maybe. I mean, ranges are so narrow that I don't know if it's better to just kind of go big now. I don't know if you want to ever encourage any sort of situation where you lose to some sort of like equity
Now,
draw
it's a
here.
prayer that Daniel has a hand. Like ace jack seems unlikely.
So I'm
He
going to
may
move
very
back because we
well
also have
call
this
jack.
king's hand here, and we have
Though at
ace
this
king
point,
down
with small
on
flop
table
sizes,
3.
You can call kind of wide. Now we just put it in.
So, yeah.
and no snap is great.
That's a
and
clear
we hope we
decision,
hold.
obviously.
That's great.
That's great.
Good result.
Makes a lot of sense. It's kind of surprising and bad for him to do that with 10s because he blocks 9-10 and whatever. I don't know what he's winning with there.
We could have gone larger with the kings. We're actually looking for the opportunity to 3-bet here. We don't get that. I'm going to play a more pot controlling line now, though, by going smaller on that flop.
I still agree with that without having the king of spades for sure.
And I can easily bluff catch here.
And that is a bluff catch for sure because there is a possibility that ace is always looking to check raise there on the river, and I don't want to open it up at all. And I can find out basically in a much easier way in showdown against what is a much thinner value bet. Like, is a 6 going to call there? Probably not. That's very suspicious. Like, if that's what this sort of flop calls were.
Not sure
middle
exactly how
pair.
much to go here, but that's what I'm going to try. 2/3 donk as a bluff. Floated out of position. Ace, after him not betting on that, probably means that he's giving up because that's the best card for him.
Cool. So yeah, getting back to my story, I am into 1 million hands, hopefully by March of next year. So we'll see how that goes. But my aspirations are to get to 2.5, to 5.10. I think that's going pretty well. I have been playing really good poker recently. I kind of want to start sharing that. I think I'm at a level where it's definitely I can sort of gain a lot from this sort of play and interaction with other people and getting people to check this out. And I think putting myself out there, finding my community, finding other people to help and to get all these other ideas is a really important thing. So if you're kind of this far into it and you're interested in streaming and watching, and if any of this is making kind of you hyped at all, just talk to me, leave some comments. I'll interact. I don't have a ton
know
of.
if I can block here for cheaper than what he may bet. My queens are not good because they basically block the few draws that he should or could be bluffing with. So I'm glad he just chooses to show down there with the ace. That's cool. Yeah, I saved money there. I mean, there's no real point to do that with queens. I mean, he may make some sort of like actual mistake there and try to bluff me. Thin value is definitely one thing. But against that particular player in that formation, I think that I was going to see an ace there a lot. Ha! There's my buddy. You see Wes Watson. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Wes Watson, YouTube sensation. Former prisoner, now motivational speaker. He is my avatar. There he is, Wes Watson. Hoop that shit, homie. Really inspirational stuff to watch his life sort of turn around and who he is and listen to him. You get fired up for sure. You know, I can't even imagine putting in like the mental fortitude day after day, year after year of the routine and the grind. It's like unfathomable to me. And so to see that guy come out, he's now like, he just blew up right out of prison. And super successful, super inspiring. So there he is in the lower left, Wes Watson. He's putting in that work. So this is pretty standard poker. I guess I have a decision here with the fives where I think, you know, I'm very excited about that. And when he doesn't bet that, he kind of relinquishes, you know, his right to that flop on a board that kind of runs like pretty similar equities, even though he has all the overpair advantages. I'm a little confused on the sizing there. Betting again, though, obviously with a great turn for us. And I still am a little confused about the sizing there. I should run a sim on that later to see what it likes. Because that is an interesting turn. And unique stack size. It's probably better to stretch it out over... I mean, if I think I'm actually betting my fives for value there, which I do against some certain ace highs, for sure, I think I want to stretch that out and maybe even turn it into 3 streets. And maybe even get more value against a potential ace high on the river too. So, if I got all these gimmicks and cool things working, I got Restream up, right? Oh, that's not the window I want. Let's put that down. Let's check it out. So I wonder if I could speed this up. So this is still basically dry run, trying to get, if you have watched this far, maybe friends and family, poker crew people, we'll see. Definitely give me some feedback. You know, I'm trying to learn a lot of different things here. Talking through, learning to actually... It is tempting. This hand probably does play better that way. I actually think there's a large chance of a back raise, though, and I'm not married to the idea of necessarily needing to win that hand there, so I'm actually just going to check call. That's me being kind of like wuss. I should probably just freaking go for it. But no, against under the gun there. How much plus, think in terms of like plus EV there. I don't know. I think I do a great deal for my calling range there on some level into a 4-way pot. And then potentially something like, you know, squeezing my under the gun. So table 1, what can we do here? What do I do here? Got to bet for value, right? And for... what are we going to do here? So, yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I kind of resigned to playing this passively. Obviously, once you kind of like go from a check to check call a line like that, what can you do? What can you hope for? You can certainly hope for bluffs. You know, the jack of diamonds kind of blocks some annoying parts of potential diamond draws for him. But you could have a lot of 7/8s, everything like that. So this is really an ace or nothing. I'm surprised I'm not talking this through.
because I would like to hear my thought process at the time. I only have to be good here a quarter of the time, so 7/8, things like that. And he makes a play with ace queen there and gets me pretty good. I guess. That's a good note to have on that player. I don't think I'm really losing anything out there. I should be losing some percentage of the time to many aces, basically. All right, so let's mess around a little bit with some of these settings, because this is me, myself, and I. And 3 of 3? No, that can't be right. That's where I'm broadcasting. Anything happened there? No, not yet. All right, so I chatted something. Let's see what the delay is. Got good advice from part of a poker study group I'm in yesterday. A guy who plays on PokerStars PA as well. Now that's what the delay is. And he basically said all these first streams are going to be terrible. Stop overthinking it. Just get into it. Just start doing it. And that's true. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to get into this point. Oh crap, I want to go. Did I get that hotkey right? Yeah, we're here. All right. So, at this point, what is this guy doing? He's over betting. And I'm raising with king high. Non-nuts. 3x pot. What's going to happen here? Certainly happy to call off. Weird bet size here now. I don't think I want to polarize too much, I guess. I mean, can I leave stuff behind? I can't bet fold a king. I have a lot of issues with non-nut flushes and betting the river, and whether I'm supposed to check or bet all in and polarize, and what this range construction looks like. So I mess this up. But here's a case where I'm actually comfortable bet calling, and I give him an opportunity to. The pot is pretty large here. To potentially, if anyone is ever going to bluff, maybe this is a spot where he went 9x before. So he goes small to stop his bluffs, to get some value there. Value betting is kind of weird at that sizing, and I am a person who is very comfortable 2x potting, but I think that narrows his range down too much. But an interesting spot for sure, responding to the 3x overbet on the turn. Against polarization so hard, you're not generally supposed to polarize so hard yourself, but I do, and I didn't. I went kind of small there. I mean, you know, repolling after a poll, you should probably go bigger, but going smaller there, definitely trying to keep his range as wide as possible so that it's not just like some awkward ace of spades thing that he's just basically burning me with at that point. All right, so we got the restream going. We are on Twitch. We are on YouTube. I'm trying to find out if I can get YouTube to just save this for posterity. I was uploading raw play footage and DLive. DLive, maybe some more tech people, different platform. We'll see how that goes. I don't really watch much stuff on DLive myself. Mainly it would just be on Twitch and YouTube for entertainment, obviously. So here, pretty standard on table 2 with my ace queen to just bet that blank basically and just keep going. And here, this is always kind of an interesting spot, what to do in range construction. I probably should have gone a bit bigger here on table 3 because that's more of what I would do with my range. I'm actually doing a little bit of a strange range strategy here, where I think I'm just trying to get to showdown as cheaply as possible. Yeah, that makes sense. Against that particular guy, there is some value to try to get to showdown as cheaply as possible. And that particular hand, a king like that, I mean, he could have better king X's with kickers. Once he calls that flop, equities can dramatically change because there could be a lot of different gut shots that could connect on a Broadway board like that. And just kind of keeping control against a player like that with small bets, I thought was a better way of playing the hand. And because, that Broadway kind of came down, that gives him some pair possibilities, things that are not just an ace that I could be getting value from. So, yep, this is pretty much me playing poker. I think that I am any freaking good if I could teach you anything. If you want to work with me, if you want to just anyway get involved with me playing poker, I think I got a lot to offer. I think I have some great ideas. For editing, I just, I'm looking for people to both collaborate with in poker and then people who have these sort of other skills, which I'll get more into future videos. But, if you're the kind of person out there already who has any video content producing, any sort of you can make clips, if that's your kind of forte. I've done that in the past. It's just too time intensive for me. I'm too out of the loop. I used to be basic iMovie person, whatever. I've looked at just basic Windows stuff now. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pay to and get Premiere. I'm not going to do any of those things. This is already kind of streaming really hurts and cuts my ability to do a million hands. So the reward has to be pretty high on it. And plus I just want to use these not ill-gotten, but I have to be clear about my language. I would use these poker gains to help other people with what they're passionate about. Check out this. Boys, what are we doing here? What's the plan? What do we do? What's the only move we got here? What's the only move we got here? Hopefully we go to a live casino and he has a royal. But no one ever calls ace king. I get the bad beat. Beautiful. Got him. Thank you, Jesus. So yeah, there's this whole Proverbs Poker thing too, to get into more in the future. So that's something for a Q&A. How can you be Christian and also gamble? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. How can we do that? We'll talk about it. Not for this video, not for right now. So, let's see. Good bit of time left on this video. We're looking at another 15-20 minutes. This is the first video kind of play and explain, and I think it's going pretty well so far. Haven't invited anyone in really to see it, to do it live, to really kind of figure out how to both interact with people as well. So this is definitely for post-mortem viewing, and we'll see how it goes. I think I've done reasonably well. I hope you'll agree. And I think I'm actually kind of impressed with, I know I didn't really talk much in this video. I wasn't really planning on narrating a ton, just because I wanted to focus on playing a bit more than talking through the hands at the time. But the hands I did talk through, sometimes you can find various obvious sort of language tics and just issues and weaknesses in language, and I didn't really see any of that today in my play, where although I did treat that queen's hand inappropriately, where my initial reaction was I said this is brutal, and it wasn't brutal at all. I stacked some chump with tens. So I need to change the way I was looking at that scenario. I forgot that I can just stack some guy there. It's a very natural continue. Then with the delay, I mean, I'm going to hide most of my bluffs there in a flop C betting range, but I do have a different, I mean, he doesn't know my strategy there. Maybe he expects me to bet as a bluff there every single time. Maybe not, because I can hide my bluffs there with all my bets. If I bet a range strategy, or even really, I could probably just bet polarized there like 80% of the time. That board kind of smashes. And just because my hand was so good, and to give some EV to a checking range there, at a checking range that doesn't usually even exist. So maybe I shouldn't have done that. Should be pretty natural to fire here. After the isolate, I go with this smaller sizing here. I could go larger too. I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on him, and it's going to hand. I'm going to continue for 2 barrels at least. So I kind of wanted to save a little money on the flop to make my bluffs a little more effective on the turn. And we got a little bit out of line here with this ace-2. Got to do it sometimes. In the moment, I was definitely feeling it. I would have been more pumped if this was like ace-4. I wouldn't have felt bad about it at all. But because ace-2 is not the best 3-betting hand. You know, that's definitely outside of my normal range construction by just a little bit. But the frequency was right at this time, I believed. Yeah, I'm going to have to learn all kinds of producing stuff because I want to pull in other graphics. I want to do other things. You know, I'm going to have to do like study sessions in GTO. I believe, figure out how to do some of these videos to show GTO windows as well. And I think I studied 1 or 2 spots in this video for sure. I've made a lot of sessions recently. I've just uploaded them as raw, as sort of like back content. I was just getting familiar with the whole process. And I think it's very natural here to bet this flop, of course. And now with this turn really improving us, we kind of want to polarize and put pressure to what was his wide range, and the smaller sizing on the flop. Do you call here? Who calls here? Who goes all in? Who folds? I folded. I fold 4s. So, let's see. Still some more time in this video. I hope it's going at a good speed. I hope it's kind of familiar. It's kind of interesting. I think I'll keep these recorded sessions. I've played some of them with morning tournaments. I also play like a morning document of $10 and a $30 one, and some morning PLO, just like a $5 tournament. And sometimes I'll get those up here on the mix, record them, talk about them as well too. But I like really this, after playing this dissection later on, this is much better speed for being able to talk. Once I actually have an audience, I think it'll be a lot better for engaging. It's a good study session for me, like an hour at a time, being able to do this. So if you have made it this far, you'll be the first person out there, and I appreciate that. Or the second, or the third, or who knows. But no viewers yet. You may be the very first one to make it in here this far. What do we got here? Some messages. And I wonder, I mean, yeah, this is all learning. I have some sweet harpsichord concertos going on. I wonder if that's going to show up. I wonder, hopefully that doesn't get kind of like blocked somehow. Gets me kicked off YouTube, censored. So I may speed through this a little bit. Oops, that's volume. Get out of here, volume. He's so silly. All right, so here we have an interesting spot. This is a guy that we engaged in that 4-bet fold earlier with. We call here this time, being a little bit higher up. He can have a little bit worse aces. And we go with this polarizing size here on the flop. Why not? Right? That's what we would do with an overpair. Apply the maximum amount of pressure. We wouldn't give a low equity to like an ace-king or some weird like queen-10. And he check raises us here. What do we do? Do I not talk about this? Come on, man. Making me nervous even right now. What do we do here? I don't know. I'd certainly call. But what kind of range is just calling here? What kind of range polarizes there and then doesn't repol? And if he polls, he has to be at least somewhat strong. I mean, I guess he has some bluffs. 36. He's putting in an awful... He's 100 BBs behind. I don't know. I ship. I mean, I ship, of course, right? I wonder. I wonder if he made an incredible fold with like 10s or something. I mean, that would be insane. That would be a horrible way to play. So, cool. Got him. Ginge, you're the man. At some point, you're going to see some video that I'm going to do. I guarantee it. Yeah, so I have a lot of different ideas for poker streaming content too. I want to do like a high stakes kind of like Fight Club thing where I basically just play 5-10 till I've either kind of made it or I'm busto. Hopefully to get kind of the attention of maybe someone who's much better than me, who would then either want to coach me or stake me or something like that. I think I can definitely prove and show that I'm a pretty solid poker player. I've been a poker player, a winner for millions of hands now at this point, through Black Friday back on Full Tilt, all the way back to the days of Party. So we're at this point now where I got to start moving up. You know, it's always been kind of like through 1-2, always kind of hovering. I'm ready to move up and just push and try to get there and do something and try to give back. There's just so many things that about the community and the game itself that are amazing and I love. And in this weird kind of time with no casinos and live poker, at least kind of where I'm at, and just, I don't know, the game, there's a lot of awesome stuff going on, but, you know, I want to add to that too. So we'll see how that goes. I think there's a lot to gain from this for myself. For people who want to work with me, I have a lot of ideas too. Probably missed some hand there that I could have talked about. That Jack-7 just becomes a showdown instead of... maybe some tournament players probably better than me in value bets that somehow, but I don't. So this session, I guess, is not really like as kind of wild as I was hoping. But when I do have this video producer person, you know, I think you're going to find out there are going to be some really good calls, some really good plays, just some things that are going to be worth talking about. And I do have GTO solves of a lot of the spots that I've been doing that have caused me issue. And I want to kind of go back and talk through them and figure them out. And so I think that working with someone to help me kind of get through my weaknesses, limitations, to create kind of great content to attract other people who are interested in poker and who have other sort of passions and talents that we can put to use while spreading the good word. I don't know, it could be fun. We'll see how it goes. We will see what happens with that, but primarily poker first. Online poker, streaming poker. We'll see what kind of reception we get here. Interesting spots in terms of, this is always just kind of like range bet here, and then after this turn, you know, it's actually great turn, because now he's going to play his hand a lot differently, and he has less kings, so we're much happier. We could potentially raise that river, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he has a weird 8, something like that. Maybe he's a king. He's just trying to get value, get me to spaz. I'm not sure. Now, this is definitely an interesting spot. One we can talk about here. This Jack 9-2. And I don't think I'll be able to figure out how to pull up the GTO solve for this. But down here, what do we do here in lines like this? I'm going to pause the video here for a second before we get too far into these hands. It's a mandatory check call to the range bet. You know, flop may be even questionable a little bit if I even have 7s in my range here for under the gun versus button. Maybe that's a little wide. Maybe that's the first sort of talking point. So, you know, if I do have a pocket pair here, though, that is a defend. Now, the way this hand is going to play out is a 2 is going to come in. He's going to bet again. And what do we do? Because solver is always check call there again. But what do they do on the river? With our specific hand, they fold. So they check call, check fold on every single river. Every run out, they will fold. If I have my range construction correct, they will fold. So on this turn, what's going to play out is a decision, basically, that do I believe that this guy will either let me then show down on the river with he has something missed, and that's where the value of check calling the turns comes from 7s, or is he going to fire 3 barrels? And it's actually great. I mean, you know, 7s become a check call, check fold because you have better hands, I guess, to defend your range with, obviously, if you're sort of balanced there. You're going to have just more pairs anyway. 7's nice because it unblocks everything. But I make the decision here when he goes 55. It's more of like a manual kind of bet size, and he sized down 1 from 40. I don't know. It's interesting. I think he's likely to fire. And I get just too nervous because I could be still with jacks or 9s there. I could have a lot of other pairs, ace jacks, a lot of ways to play and defend. So the hands that he's trying to get me to fold are maybe like a king jack, get value from. I don't know. There's some possibility there. I don't know how often he 3-bets king queen off. So I don't know how often he's 2-barreling that, but that was a video. And I hope you appreciate it. Hope you liked it. Signing off. Stop streaming.